Well, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to have everybody with us today. We'll go ahead and call the Irving City Council work session for Thursday, August 1st, 2024 to order. And the first item on the agenda is citizens' comments on the items listed on the agenda. Jennifer, do we have any residents? Okay, then we'll go to the city operations update. Chris, I think we have some things to talk about.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good afternoon. Chris Hillman, City Manager. It's good to be with you. I have two operations updates. We'll be showing our ICTN month in review here in a few minutes. But before we get to that, what I wanted to do was recognize a few of our employees that have accomplished a very important achievement. We have in the city an employee recognition program. And this is a program where employees recognize other employees for good accomplishments going above and beyond, and it's called our RISE program. And as part of the RISE program, through that employee recognition, certificates are then handed out for any of those individual recognitions that one employee would see for another employee. In addition to that, based upon that recognition, there's also an opportunity for the department director to provide a coin to that employee for that accomplishment. And we have 5 different coins, and we even have display cases for those that begin to collect those coins. Well, we have 3 individuals here that have now collected all 5 Pride coins. This is not an easy feat. It is something that does take time. We've had this program now coming up on our 4th year. So to be able to accomplish achieving all 5 coins is definitely something noteworthy. And we want to call those individuals up and recognize them here in our council meeting. And so I'd like to call up the 3 individuals, and then if it's okay, Mayor, just read a little short summary of some of the great things that they've done. So right up front, Tesla Harlan, come on up. We also have Jason Hardy, and we also have April Aguayo from our planning department. And they are carrying their display cases with all of their coins. And those are great display cases, too. What I'd like to do is go ahead and read some of the summaries of what these 3 great employees have done over the years as they've received these RISE Award coins. And we'll start Tesla, if that's okay with you. Tesla is a senior management analyst in the city manager's office. She oversees the executive assistant team and a number of special programs, including our RISE program. Tesla has received a number of RISE Awards, but most notably, Tesla received RISE Awards for quickly and flawlessly coordinating several complex events for the city, including the strategic budget retreat in May, which we enjoyed a few months ago. Every detail was perfect, and it helped us to have a very good, efficient, and effective meeting. Equally important, if not even more time-consuming for sure, were the City Hall tours that we held in January when we were going through our discussion relative to City Hall. It involved inviting numerous groups, specifically coordinating a lot of the touring, how we were going to get the employee resources out to help guide and direct these tours to make sure everything was safe and sound and open and accessible for our residents. Did a great job doing that. Tesla additionally leads the Irving Ambassadors Program, a group of residents who engage with the community to encourage additional engagement with the city. Over the last year, Tesla has completely reinvigorated this program to provide a targeted approach which directly contributed to the increase in responses to our biennial resident survey. She has further received RISE Awards for stepping in and assisting with the coordination of the Irving 360 kickoff, as well as when staff suddenly fell ill with COVID. Tesla is instrumental in the city's ongoing success. Her organization, creativity, and drive keep us all moving forward and focused. Her ability to adapt and jump into a project with little to no instruction or background is a skill that is paramount to the success of the city manager's office and to the city of Irving. We are very thankful to have Tesla as part of our team and continuously proud of the impact that she has on an organization as a whole. Thank you, Tesla, for all your great work. Appreciate it. And it's true. I turn to Tesla on a daily basis. Say, Tesla, can I please get some help with this? And it's just out of the blue. She'll drop whatever she's doing, and she just goes and she gets it done, and she gets it done very, very well. So thank you, Tesla. Jason Hardy is the Workforce Services Manager in Human Resources. He oversees risk management, employee relations, and benefits. Jason has now received his 5th Pride Coin. He is a recipient of many Rise Awards, but received coins for the following nominations: providing exceptional leadership to the benefits team during the open enrollment transition to Blue Cross Blue Shield in 2021. He worked open enrollment meetings, participated in Help Me sessions. He came in and stayed late and attended every open enrollment session supporting his team. Supporting the payroll and IT staff during a very difficult payroll system crash in 2022. He stayed late to offer moral support and went and got IT and HR staff dinner. That's worth a Pride Coin right there. In 2023, Jason spearheaded the retiree health care enhancements. This was almost a year-long process, and this was one that was very important to council as well, as we were able to successfully implement an upgrade and additional buy-downs to our retiree health care system. Jason is the one that spearheaded that. Again, it was almost a year-long process that involved working with consultants, finance, and legal staffs, as well as keeping city management apprised of the status of the project. And you can see how successful we were able to get that project done. So, Jason, thank you for your leadership on that. Also helping to coordinate and host the Health is Wealth Benefits Fair. That was a huge success and had the best employee attendance in recent years. In 2024, Jason worked with the benefits team to conduct a dependent audit that saved the city about $50,000 in premiums annually, as well as about $71,000 in future claims. Jason, thank you very much for your great impact on the city. Thank you. April is the Senior Administrative Specialist in the Planning Department. April quickly received her Pride Coins because she makes a conscious effort in the Planning Department to provide superior customer service to the public and other city staff. She is dedicated to continuously improving, recently graduated from our iLead management program, congratulations, and prides herself on the positive interactions she has daily with Irving customers and employees. April takes the initiative in everything that she does, continually improving processes, initiating changes that created a more organized office space for the department, and demonstrating a positive attitude and a desire to serve every day. April is always proactively thinking of things that staff and customers alike may need in order to succeed. Customers have regularly submitted feedback about how satisfied they were when working with April. If I can just share a few quotes with you, and these are straight from our customers. First one, it can be intimidating at times dealing with the city, but the way April genuinely cared to help me out really means a lot. She was knowledgeable, and her patience and understanding really stood out. Another customer said, April answered the phone on the first ring, and before I knew it, she had provided me with all the information I was looking for, and then some. Excellent customer service with a fantastic attitude. She is a credit to her profession. Another customer, April went above and beyond what I have experienced in similar zoning inquiries to other cities. And finally, another one, April answered with a friendly voice and was absolutely, positively professional. Before I knew it, I had a copy of everything pertaining to the property I was asking for. It was an absolute pleasure working with her. I wanted to pass this message on and state that she is a superstar, unquote. The city is grateful to have April at the front as the front face of our planning team and an excellent representative of Irving. April, thank you so much for having that positive impact on our customers. Mayor and council, ladies and gentlemen, our 3 recipients.
Chris, I need you to stay up there a minute. Well, it's hard to believe, but this is Chris Hillman's 10th anniversary as a city manager in the city of Irving. So they put together a few things for me. Chris started here on August 4th, 2014. I believe he has worked here longer than any other job that he has been at for this 10 years. His accomplishments during this time are notable, but to name just a few: collaborating with the Irving firefighters to solve the pension plan, managing a total of over a decade of $7,811,674,086 across the city. He's welcomed over 37,000 new residents to Irving, increased our city staff by 276 positions, started our Roads to the Future strategy and completed 77 miles of road overlay, built 18 new parks and created the vision for Let's Play Irving Aquatics initiative. He has worked with us to bring new Fortune 500 corporation headquarters to Irving, like Wells Fargo, Pioneer, McKesson, Builders First Source, and Caterpillar. Opened the Toyota Music Factory and the Westin Irving Convention Center Hotel. But more than that, what Chris has been able to do is put his own personal touch on the people that work within our city. The over 2,000 employees that come to work every day. Chris goes out of his way to make sure that he is aware of their positions, aware of what's going on in their lives, and very thoughtful of what's going on. During the time when we were trying to figure out about what we were going to do with trash, a lot of people don't realize that Chris gets up every morning and runs. Well, he would get up and he would run alongside the trucks, and he would be throwing garbage while the others had a few minutes to take a break. I was called by the Baylor Scott White Hospital when we had the ice storms, and they were concerned because they couldn't get doctors into the hospitals, and they wanted to know if he would contact the police and the fire and see if there was a way for that to happen. And Cindy called me and she goes, I was surprised because I didn't see the police and the fire pull up. He actually got in his own pickup and picked up the doctors and made sure that they had a way to come to the hospital during that time when this was going on. So Chris has made a tremendous impact in the community. He and his family are very involved. His kids have gone through our school system. He puts up with me every day. That's a challenge and a half. I'm a 24/7 guy. He may get a call from me at 10 o'clock at night because somebody's electricity is not on, or I see something that, or he'll get a call because I'm out pulling weeds at the plaza or something like that. And so he really is one of those go-to people that I have no problem 24/7 giving him a call and knowing that he's going to respond and we're going to be able to have that done. So for me, I've had the privilege to work under several city managers, but I really value immensely the opportunity that I've had to work with Chris hand in hand, and all that we've accomplished as a city and all that we will accomplish in the future under his great leadership. So Chris, it's my great pleasure to be able to give you your 10-year pin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. Thank you, especially importantly, to an incredible staff. An absolutely incredible staff. And it is that group that goes out, and the list, Mayor, that you had a few items on. You could add dozens and dozens of more things that this staff has gone out there and done. And with the great policy leadership from you and this council, I've enjoyed, oh, I can't say that every minute because we had the Toyota Music Factory, which was a very challenging time. But I can honestly say, truly say, I've loved every minute of it, and I continue to love every minute of it. This is an incredible city with incredible people. And to have the opportunity to serve with this group and to serve 265,000 people and to hopefully see that positive impact each and every day in their lives. I know that's what gets me going. I know that's what gets our staff going, and I especially know that's what gets the mayor and the council going, because that's why you're here doing it yourselves. So my thanks. And on the truck thing, that was the first time that my truck was actually able to go into four-wheel drive. And it had a great time, and I was having a blast because I haven't driven in snow in years, and just to be able to have that opportunity was a great opportunity. But anyways, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you. And Mayor, with that, in council, we have last month on ICTN, April.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. April Riley is on vacation. I am Isaac Vasquez, Communications Manager. Before we get to last month's highlights, I just wanted to acknowledge our amazing ICTN team. Because we are now at the midpoint of 2024, I just wanted to let you all know that so far they've published 309 videos this year, reaching more than 207,000 views on YouTube. And just last week, they were notified that they received 23 NATOA awards. NATOA is the National Association of Telecommunication Officers and Advisors. With that being said, here are last month's highlights.
Your ICTN team produced 38 videos in the month of July.
We love to join the parade to show our patriotism, how much we love living in Irving, and are proud of that.
When we overlay roads, you get new striping, new lane markings, and new crosswalks. So you get the whole kit and caboodle, so to speak.
We're hearing under the sea while I'm in the pool. I think that's pretty cool.
We're a pop-up museum experience, and we have an exhibit about the border crossing and about the immigrant experience.
We do see a lot of people that come in and then they're like, oh, we want to try this new dish that you guys posted.
A live rabbit, LED routines, knives for a danger element.
It's so interesting. I really enjoyed working with a lot of different people and getting to know each other as well as being able to do the play.
Because you're such a great dog.
You know, you get them when they're 8 weeks old. So, and you watch them grow up like this.
And July also brought the debut of public meetings streaming live on YouTube for broader access and engagement.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Irving City Council for July 11th.
Stay up to date by subscribing to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/the City of Irving.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Isaac. The next we'll go to the review of the regular agenda. Items number 2 and 3 are approval of the minutes for July 11th. Item 4 is amending ordinance number 2023-10795, providing budget adjustment number 7 to the 2023-24 fiscal year budget. Item number 5 is a resolution approving the first amended and restated interlocal agreement for security and peace office services between the City of Irving and the Irving Independent School District to maintain the school's resource officers program at IISD campuses. Kyle.
Yeah, and this is for both items 5 and item 6. As we've seen some things change in our society and the way things are done, I would like to have come to public safety, just a conversation about how all of this works regarding risk, liability. Are they, how does this impact the police officers and staffing on the street? I really believe in this program and understand it, but I just think as we're getting into some of the more challenging things in our society now, I'd really like to get a good understanding of risk, liability, something goes down. where does the police department sit regarding having to make decisions regarding those officers in those schools? So I would just kind of like to have this come back to public safety and just have Chief Miller give us an overall view of how this SRO stuff works, what the liability is in case an incident happens or something happens, whether it's minor or major. Just kind of, we have a good, as a council, we understand the processes of what the risk and the liability, because I keep seeing this cost just keep going up and up and up, and I'd just like to have a better idea and understanding of kind of what the liability, what the risk is, just an overall presentation of the SROs, specifically tied to an incident.
Okay.
And so that's something that I would really like for us to kind of get into and look a little bit, because you're looking at 18 to 24 officers off of the streets in the schools, which they're needed. But just, I really want to get a good understanding of how all of that works and the interrelations of an incident. Because we've seen some incidences around the country. We've seen some school district, municipalities, counties. Just want to make sure we have a good understanding of how all that works from the police department.
Sure. Derek Miller, Chief of Police. We'll make sure that we put that on the next Public Safety Committee agenda to make sure we give you a full overview of the program. Just so you know, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I asked the school districts, both school districts that we serve, 50% is not representative of the resources that are required to maintain this program. So we've had to ask the school district over time in an incremental manner to come up to about 70%. So that's why you see this item is for last year was 50, this year is 55%, and it'll increase to try to recover some. We will never get to total cost recovery, but we're putting a lot of resources.
Yeah, just, a lot of school districts have their own police department.
Correct.
Is that something for a city our size that they might, so, want to kind of probably made too much in the weeds, but I really want to get a good understanding moving forward with, we've had the incident in North Lake, with the shooting there, on just how all of that works in the inner workings, so we as a council and a governing body for the municipality have a full understanding of how all that works out on the backside of an incident and things of that sort.
I'm not shy to tell you that I think modern school districts can absolutely operate police departments. There's actually been a proliferation of school districts that operate police departments. There's a template for it. There's many of them in the state. Selfishly, I would love to recover those assets and put those back on the street where they require. I have 24 police officers and 3 supervisors doing this. It's a very important assignment. It's a very important function, but I think there's other ways it can be done.
Okay, thank you.
Look forward to that. Item number 6 is approval of a local agreement for school resource officers between the City of Irving and Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District. Item number 7 is approving and adopting the Tarrant County 911 District 2024-25 annual budget. Item number 8 is approving the Irving Arts and Cultural Board of Directors revision to revised bylaws. John.
Thank you, Mayor. I was reading through the changes and kind of marking what had changed. In terms of the actual changes, I have no objection to any of them. They're mostly pro forma. I did have one thing I wanted to raise here. Fiscal affairs is duplicated in part through the through the new bylaws. So you have Article 9, Fiscal Affairs, and it has 4 sections. And then you have Article 12 is also Fiscal Affairs, and it has 6 sections. And sections 3 through 6 are mostly duplicate of the 4 sections in Article 9. So my suspicion is Fiscal Affairs got moved to the end and not removed, and then they didn't get renumbered. So is it possible that we could get, between now and the meeting, an alternate proposal that has that discrepancy resolved? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Item number 9 is approving an expenditure with MART Inc. in the amount of $150,975 for the Trinity Rail Express TRE O'Connor Road Bridge lead-based paint stabilization, encapsulation, and repainting project through an interlocal purchasing system program. Chris, did we get DART to agree to pay for part of this, or are we paying for it?
Yeah, how much was it, Yolanda? 50%, yes, sir, 50%.
Okay, thank you. Item number 10 is approving an expenditure with MART Inc. in the amount of $165,665 for the refurbished economic development office space through the interlocal purchasing system. Item number 11 is awarding a contract to Austin Filler Systems, Inc. in the estimated amount of $2,554,182 for the Hucks Court Irving Mall Drainage Flume and J.C. Park Drainage Improvement Project. Item number 12, go ahead, John.
I don't need a full presentation on this, but I guess this would be for Pat. Back here. Does that include, is this the relining of J.C. Park? It is? Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 12 is a resolution awarding a contract to Greenverse Construction LLC in the estimated amount of $296,666.22 for Riverside Drive and North O'Connor Boulevard intersection improvement project. Brad.
Yeah, quick question. I thought we had been doing this, or maybe there's just so much other construction around there, but what are we doing here?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Pat Lamers, Director of CIP Department. So, Councilman Lamar, just what we're doing here is improving the intersection at Riverside Drive and O'Connor Boulevard. So there is currently one through lane going south on Riverside and then 2 lanes that turn right onto O'Connor. We're going to add a second lane to go through that intersection. So there'll be 2 lanes going southbound through that intersection. That second lane is what we're adding. That's what this project is.
Okay, well, that's a big improvement because I think people get confused over there. Mm-hmm. So I think that'll be good.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Item number 13. 13 is approving the standard contract for the federal funds addendum with sole source provider Public Works and Citizens Engagement LLC for purchase of customer relationship management, CRM, and customer service management software for a 2-year period, not in the total amount of $140,000. Item number 14 is approving and accepting a bid from SYB Construction, Inc. in the amount of $2,656,254.60 for the rehab of the Freeport number 2 lift station and rehabilitation project. Item number 15 through 23 are the bids. Are there any questions on the bids? No questions. We'll go to
One question.
Sure.
17 to me reads, I call it a tornado, but this is the fix for the high winds at the North Police Facility. It looks like the insurance funds have covered that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
We'll get the roof back on the building. Okay, item number 24 is amending the Code of Civil and Criminal Ordinances of the City of Irving, Texas by repealing Section 34-2.4, closing of streets for neighborhood block parties, application fee of Chapter 34, streets and sidewalks, and Article 1, in general, providing a penalty, providing a savings clause, providing a servability clause, providing for a conflict resolution, and establishing an effective date. Brad?
Just asking, what are we changing here? If there's a presentation on this, or even a summary of kind of what are we changing from our old ordinance?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Wayne Snell, Inspections Director. So in 2021, we adopted the special events permit, making block parties redundant. We're removing the block party and allowing special events to oversee all those regulations. So this is repealing block parties.
Because it's covered in our
Special
new
events
special
ordinance.
events. So kind of like what John wants to do to the bylaws over there earlier, we're going to eliminate some redundancy.
It's exactly what this is. Yes, sir.
All right. Items number 25 and 26, Councilman Taylor's going to be stepping down. He's signed affidavits on that. Item 25 is a resolution approving the submission of the fiscal year 2024-2025 action plan to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for the use of federal funds, Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership Grant, and Emergency Solutions Grant. And item number 26 is approving the fiscal year 2024-2025 Community Development Block Grant Public Service allocations to the area nonprofit organizations in the amount of $325,812. Item number 27 is a public hearing and designating approximately 5.731 acres of land located at 2203 West Royal Lane for tax abatement reinvestment zone number 61. Item number 28 is a resolution approving a tax abatement agreement between the City of Irving, Fox Television Station LLC, Northwest Communications of Texas, Inc., DBA KDFW, Fox Station Sales, Inc., New Fox Service LLC, and Fox Corp Holdings LLC in the amount to depend upon annual qualifications. The next items are the zoning cases. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Last but not least. All right, just a few cases tonight. First is a temporary use permit at 3602 West Airport Freeway, which is, of course, is the Irving Mall. They are allowed to have a circus or a temporary use by right, but only up to 30 days. And they need essentially another 13 days to have this circus in October. It was interesting when the aerial was taken, I guess last year, the circus was actually underway. So it's kind of neat to see actually how it's laid out. So it is in the parking lot. They do have in the greens where they have some RVs, but y'all know how kind of the layout, how they operate the circus. They want to do it in October. And again, by the time they get to October, they'll be allowed to have 8 days. But again, they want to have 21. So if they are going to exceed 30, they need permission from the City Council. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, John.
So my understanding of this is just because the way we calculate this is on a rolling 12 months back basis. They had it certain days last year, and then the days that they want to have it this year, that makes the conflict?
Right, because by the time they get to October, like right now, they're pretty much out of time. But by the time they get to October, there will be 8 days because of that rolling calendar. The 8 days loosened up, but they need 21.
So if they had scheduled it 13 days later, they would need no variance?
No, if they don't get this variance, they won't have their 30 days until next February, I believe it is. They will, Wayne's coming up. They're the ones that manage it. But it's, the rolling calendar is a complex thing for them to keep up with.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head around First of all, what caused the
Let me take a
variance to
stab at it. So they have 30 days of the course of 365.
Sure.
They have several events, circuses, what have you, throughout the course of the year. So on a calendar year, we take a tally. They might have an event that was 5 days in March. That's used up. And then they use a day or here or there. And it's accumulating over the course of the year. I don't believe they have any time freed up, as Jocelyn said, until February. They'll have a few days freed up when we hit March, because this time last year, they had that amount of time, which frees up. But because of the way that time was used up over the course of the year, I don't think the next big chunk of time frees up until February.
Okay. How long does this temporary, or this excess time that we'd be granting them if we approve this, how long does that stick around? Is this permanent?
Just this time around. It won't be again next year. They still have their 30 days.
Okay, so this doesn't alter
But by
the
granting them
land use.
these, what is it, 13 days now?
Yeah, 13.
13 days now. They're just getting it right now. It doesn't take away or give them any additional time in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next one.
All right. The next two cases have been withdrawn. This was a conference plan amendment, and then the next one was a zoning case and multifamily concept plan, and the applicant has withdrawn these cases. So because they have made it so far as to get to the council agenda, it's appropriate to take action, but he has withdrawn the cases.
So we don't need any action on them.
I would take action to accept the withdrawal, just
Okay.
to close it. Mhm. The next two cases are companion cases. The first one is, these are at 900 Byron Nelson Way, known as 701 Mills at the Appraisal District, 2024 186 CP. It's currently business office. The future land use would be community village. Staff recommends approval. P&Z was approval 6-0. We have, for both the zoning case and the comprehensive plan case, because they were noticed as one, received 6 individual submissions. So this is just the forms in support, 13 in opposition, and then we have received a petition in opposition with the 189 names, 166 addresses. That equals 5.32% within 200 feet. So I'll show you the map in a second. And this was postponed from the June 27th meeting. So of course, this is the property across from the Las Colinas Resort, the Ritz-Carlton, and they are proposing to do a condo project here, a mixed-use condo project. The current future land use is business office, which expects to have some of the taller standard office towers. And then again, if it's not what they're planning to do, the community village use is a mixed-use district. We only have 2 future land use districts that can accommodate mixed use, the community village and transit-oriented development, and that's why community village was chosen for this future land use. So this is the protest boundary. Most of the submissions on the petition were from the condominium complex, Quail Run, I believe is the name. And then there were some opposition submitted from the single family to the south. And again, that equals a little over 5%. If you like, I can proceed to the zoning case.
Okay.
This, again, same address. It's currently a PUD 1 for neighborhood commercial uses. The request would take it out of the PUD and be an SP2, so generalized site plan, specifically for mixed use, and we would establish development standards for urban style development. So it's a little unique because we don't have a category, so we're essentially having to create a category for this taller mixed-use type of district, so it's basically kind of a custom mixed-use district for this use. Staff recommended approval, P&Z approval 5-3. Again, the same opposition and support. Again, there's the location. It is a generalized site plan, so they don't give us details on the property. We do have some exhibits in this PowerPoint that show what it will look like and generally how the footprint would lay out on the property. That could be a little flexible, but that's what they're showing, what their expectation is that they plan to do. So this site plan does have some of the, on this next page, the requirements that are setting the standards for the district. So the side, or the setbacks tend to be a little narrower because these are more of an urban style. So the front setback would be 10 feet from Byron Nelson, 20 feet from Leland. The maximum height is 20 stories or 250 feet. So that is something that's different outside of the urban center. They'll tell you tonight there's some special significance to the numbers of 19 stories and 11 stories when it comes to Byron Nelson. And so it's something they're wanting to honor through this building. The minimum height for a residential structure would be 7 stories. So you wanted to make sure if there was a single building that was only multifamily, it could not be less than 7 stories, because that's important in terms of the value of the building and the way it's constructed to not be too small. And so we wanted to make sure we put a cap on anything that was a single-use multifamily residential. There would not be a minimum height for non-residential. He gave me some examples of properties in Uptown and Dallas where they had some single-use commercial that was just outside the door, essentially, of some of the taller residential that was doing well, so they wanted to keep the flexibility for that type of development. There could be hotel uses if they are part of the mixed-use building. They wouldn't comply with the hotel standards, but if it's a standalone hotel, they would have to comply with the hotel standards. They'll comply with the parking. They're setting a standard for the mixed-use parking, and then just landscaping. And they will be setting a standard for the 4-bedroom because we do not currently have a standard for that. So these are the exhibits that we received from them, and they have been working with the neighborhood and provided these to the neighborhood. I believe they had a meeting last Friday, and so the applicant, I'm sure, will tell you tonight how that meeting went. He said it was successful, but he will give you a rundown of what was said and what was discussed. And then just some pictures of the existing property, which is currently in essentially an overflow parking lot for the Ritz-Carlton. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
John.
Thank you. Out of curiosity, will they have to replat the property as part of this process?
It's currently platted as one lot, so they don't have to. They could do both structures on one lot. That's not unusual in a mixed-use development. If they think that any time in the future they might divide it, they need to think that through in terms of their utility structure and, you know, where that line might go. But as far as I understand, they plan to keep it as one lot.
Okay. And then with the Ritz-Carlton, is this parking lot used in their parking requirement?
It is. I believe about 60 spaces, required spaces, are being accommodated for here, and they understand that they can't lose those spaces at any time during construction. So those spaces, so it's intended to be 2 phases. So phase 1 would be on the north side, and then phase 2 would be on the south side. And so there would always be at least those 60 spaces on the south side. And then in ultimate development, they say they will accommodate that in the parking structure.
And do they, and they'll be required to have a shared parking agreement with the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mark.
On the, there was a traffic, I guess, analysis from our traffic department, and there's no issues with that, I take it, right?
I will defer to Dan on that.
No, we're working with them.
Okay. And then there's a couple components to the traffic. One is just the capacity to handle the traffic on the streets. And the other one is that, you know, there's already some difficulty with traffic through there at Northgate and Leland, and then Leland and Byron Nelson. Are you looking at traffic lights at either or both of those locations?
I would offer up, once the zoning is determined and the occupancy of whatever goes there, whatever it is, whether it's residential or something else, we'll then start to evaluate it at a more detailed level at that point, and then that'll tell us whether or not signalization is necessary.
All right, and so the traffic study analysis does not have to be completed for us to consider the zoning changes.
I would tell you the road capacity is in place for it. Just the fundamental operation of the facility is what we'd have to fine tune as they proceed with their development.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Next one.
Next case is 3709 Canary Drive. This is an SP2 for R6 for a carport in the front setback. Staff finds no undue hardship. P&Z recommended approval at 6-2. You have 2 letters of support and none in opposition. So here's a map of the property. It's at basically Cardinal Findlay area. It is all zoned R6 currently. You can see through this map, there's the SP2s. Generally, when we have SP2s in an R6 area, those are where carports have been. There are very few in this neighborhood. So this is their site plan. They would have about 16 feet within, so it's supposed to be a 30-foot setback, and they would instead have a 16-foot setback. And the carport would be 18 feet deep into that 30-foot setback. So the variance request is 16 feet. Here's a map, again, kind of reflecting those zoning cases that show that there are a couple carports in the neighborhood, but there really aren't too many. There definitely aren't any on the current block. Picture of the subject house and some of the surrounding properties. Be happy to answer any questions.
Brad?
Not necessarily a question, because I think I know the answers, and but more some comments, and I want to say I appreciate the cordial discussions we have about these issues, and that different people can have different opinions on them, you know, and so this is not really a comment, it's just a thought of, I think, where we should proceed, at least in my estimation, and see what everybody thinks. But staff has kind of brought it up before, but I think we're doing too many carport variances. And so that means to me that you should alter your ordinance to be fairer to people who would like to do them. And so we ought to pick some standard that we actually think is appropriate. Maybe we don't think it's 30 feet, maybe we think it's 20, or maybe we think it's different, and then have that sent to the Board of Adjustments or whoever, Construction Board of Appeals, or somebody, where we pick a fair ordinance rather than we're just approving a lot of one-offs that I don't necessarily feel comfortable with. I'd feel more comfortable if we actually had a rule in place that is more akin to what we actually think. And so that's kind of my thought on this one, is that we ought to take this back to, with Al's approval, to committee or somewhere to figure out what it is we want to do, because I think to have that consistency of following the ordinance is better for our citizens, because there's people out there who won't do it because it says 30 feet and they're going to follow that rule. And then we have people who just build them right way up to the line, and then we're in a hard place of, do we approve it or not? And so that's just my thought. I know in the past we've had an appetite to handle these, but I don't think it helps our relationships when we're differing on these topics and people can get, you know, their feelings involved in on it. So I'd like to just pick whatever it's going to be, you know, and if we're going to do them, let's just have a more of a consistent, dependable rule.
Kyle?
Yeah, I agree with Brad. I think that we should just try to come up with some uniform idea of what we can accept, what the majority of the council will accept, then have them go to Board of Adjustments or Board of Appeals where they need to go next. But I know we've tried this several times before, but I think that I think this council, has a kind of a better comprehensive idea of what we need to do with that, and I think we should. Philip, don't start laughing now. I'm just waiting for Jocelyn to start laughing and roll her eyes. I would agree with Brad. I think that we've had some good conversations. We've seen a lot of these come forward. We're seeing more of these come. We're seeing more of these, and more people are starting to kind of do it the right way where they come to us. I think we need to make it easier for them, and try as a council at least one more time to see if we can't come to some kind of what is a uniform standard for what we think these carports should be.
Al?
Yeah, and I think maybe you can help me remember if some of the discussions, because I think it always boils down to, it's one thing on the variance, but the other is, well, there's no carport in this community, or yeah, there's one or two. So there's kind of a dynamic that goes on in how we try to deal with it. So you want to make a comment at this point? Does the community aspect, neighborhood play into this?
Absolutely. They receive, the only difference between the SP and if we go special exception, which was our last proposal, is no sign is posted. But notification is the same. The neighborhoods would, or the neighbors in the immediate area would get notice. They would have every opportunity to give their input on whether they support it or not. The people who are most directly affected would still get notice.
All right, let's send it back to Al's committee and let's see if we can iron it out. I think we just need to me, we need to come up with a number. The big thing for me is I just don't want them over the sidewalk, and we just need to come up with some way to achieve that without, and I know you all have tried, but I think we're all realizing that Brad makes a good point, because some people would do it if they knew what they could do. And some people are trying to be good neighbors, and then it almost comes to the point where we reward those that go out there and do it. And I think we need to come up with something, and I agree wholeheartedly with having the Board of Adjustment involved in the decision-making. So I think that's 3 or 4 of us that are like-minded, so maybe you may even get 5.
That's all we need is 5.
Try it one more time.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I'm of a similar mind. If we take it back to P&D, that's great. I've been very forthright on where I think it should be, but obviously I'm just one of 9. But for the record, I will restate my position, which is I think carports with 3 open sides should be allowed by right up to 10 feet from the property line. But I'll just leave it there.
Mark?
Yeah, I look forward to that discussion. Well, of course, one of the things that we've talked about before is that with the states taking away our ability to control materials, then who knows what will go up there, 10 feet from the property line. But when we do this, I think we also need to be looking at the proper role of Board of Adjustment, if that's kind of like what we're going to be moving it to. I don't like the idea at all that a lot of property uses can be considered either through P&Z and council, which I think is the right way to do it, or then Board of Adjustment, which is just a board and then an appeal to the Dallas County District Court. And I dare say they don't give a flip what happens in Irving. So I think that's a poor way of having land uses considered. So along with that, I think we should be looking at the overall role of Board of Adjustment. If we're going to keep it for carports and some limited purposes, I think that's very good. But otherwise, we should be looking at what other things the Board of Adjustment does and whether they should be doing those.
Okay. Kyle?
Yeah, to Mark's comment, when I first got on council, we had a building and standards board, and it had some challenges. I think the way we've changed the way the council appoints people to the boards and commissions now, where we're taking a little bit of kind of formalize that process. I've seen great improvement in the Building and Standards Board. They are citizens. And so I think that's one of those things as we go into our boards and commissions appointments, we need to make long, hard look and make sure who we're putting on that board if we're going to go that direction. Make sure that when we have folks, we have 65 people apply for P&Z, we look at some of those and maybe move some of those to those adjustments. But I can tell you after my 3 years as being the council liaison to Building and Standards, the way that process is working is we have, instead of just putting people on those boards to fill spots, we're really taking the time to interview and getting qualified candidates and looking at their skill sets. And then my hat goes off to Shane Diller and the city attorney's team, the way they've worked with that. I'm not pulling my hair out as much as when I go to Building and Standards. And I think they're doing a much better job of being more active, but being fair and listening to it and asking really, really good questions where I don't have as much concern as to what was happening in our neighborhoods and to some of our dilapidated property. So to your point about looking at that, I think that's a good thing to look at as we get into our board and commission conversations, to have that conversation.
Okay. Next one.
The next two are companion cases. The first one is a comprehensive plan change. This is 519 Joffrey Drive. The current future land use is business office, wants to go to mid-density residential. Staff recommends denial. P&Z recommends denial 7-1. No letters of support and 6 in opposition. So that is over 41%. It does trigger the supermajority because it is over 20%. So it doesn't trigger it on the comprehensive plan case. It's only a zoning trigger, and what that would mean is 7 of 9 council members would have to vote for approval. We'll talk about that in a second, too. So here's the property at Pioneer and Britain. There's some industrial, some small commercial in the area. For some reason, we don't know, some historical reason, it was included in the business, what used to be a business district category. This last year was changed to business office, which is not appropriate here. Even if this case is left alone and is not considered, is not approved, we would consider looking at this as the traditional neighborhood for a future land use adjustment to reflect what's on the ground. This is the map of your opposition to this request for the comprehensive plan change. And again, business office tends to be more of the taller business type of uses. Mid-density residential, of course, is the multifamily, typical 5 stories or less. There are some criteria if it's going from non-residential to residential, and also if it's going from residential to residential. Staff does not believe it meets any of these criteria for either of those changes. And I'll be happy to answer any questions or move on to the zoning case.
Al?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mayor. You know, this brings up something that we visited about when a P&Z then does this kind of vote, and then we get a last minute, 30 minutes before we go and bank at about 6:45 or 6:30, and you get a change to the plan or a plot difference or whatever it is. I really feel that when these things happen to us and they come late like that, I think it's automatic. Either we move them back to P&Z or they got to postpone or something, because it's unfair for us to look at it with the changes that they're, and yeah, I think you would agree with me on that because we've talked about it. But at the same time, it undercuts where the P&Z, that we haven't had that discussion. So for what it's worth, it's just something I want to try to see if we can get done.
The late submission that you have, she just adjusted her justification a little bit. So there's not a new site plan or a request for this one. Just in general. Okay, I accept that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree in general, like any kind of large substantive change, like, and I am very, very grateful that we meet on Thursdays rather than Thursdays, because I think then committee meetings would bleed over into 2 days. But, you know, one luxury is we maybe had a little bit more time to smooth things out overnight. But I agree with you, if it's permanent zoning, it's permanent, and so if it's a major change, I would like to consider that policy too, that we just send it back to P&Z and or postpone it for us to be able to consider it.
I've got, under the mayor's report, some things I want to talk about as far as procedures. I've been talking to KO, and so that's one of the things. So we'll have some discussion in a couple minutes here on that. Mark. Next one.
So the companion zoning case, they are currently R6 single-family residential, want to go to RXF extra family residential. This isn't a category we see very often. It's a little bit different. It generally is more of a group home, boarding house, dormitory type of multifamily, so it's not your standard multifamily. So it is called extra family residential. Staff recommended denial. P&Z recommended denial 7-1. Again, this is where the supermajority vote would apply, and it would have to be 7 of 9 members, or basically a 75% I don't know if everybody will be here tonight, but it'd have to be 75% in approval in order for this to pass. It would not have to be 75% for denial, just for the approval. Again, the location on Joffrey Street, Joffrey Drive. And it is a straight zoning request, so they do not have a site plan. It is an existing home. I believe it's a 3-1 home, and her plan is to add some existing or some additional bedrooms and bathrooms on the rear of the house to essentially create a rooming house. You do have her letter of intent. The only difference between this one and the one that she submitted to P&Z is she took out the age limit. But other than that, she gives you some description of what her intent is for the use of the property. And just some pictures of surrounding neighbors. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Next one.
Okay. The last case, 1618 Briarwood, they're R75, and they need a setback to the side yard setback adjacent to a street. Staff finds no undue hardship. P&Z was approval 8-0, 1 letter of support and 1 in opposition. So this house was built, what we found in the 50s, I think it was mid-50s. So there's a letter, there's opposition. I'm gonna go to the map. There we go. The house was built in the 50s, and sometime, we look in the aerial, sometimes in the early 60s, late 50s, somebody added this garage. So it has a different roof line, a different foundation. Apparently it's cracking, and so they wanted to completely rebuild the garage. And they thought, well, while we're building the garage, let's go ahead and put like a 5-foot storage area next to it. So that's what they want to do, is essentially expand it into the side setback while they're rebuilding it. I think they're going to have the roof line match the house and just wanting to do some expansion. So the setback here, it should be 20 feet. I'm sorry. Well, it's currently encroaching 17 feet now, and they need to be 13 feet into what should be a 20-foot setback. So when it was built years ago, it was already encroaching into the side setback. And that's their request. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Brad?
I'm trying to remember what the objection to this said. Was it the site obstruction or?
It should be in your packet. It's been a few weeks since I've looked at it.
Yeah.
I think it was.
I'll take a look.
Just having something in the side setback. I forgot what it was.
These owners have been here for 40 years?
They've been there a while. Yeah, I know. The building, again, was built in the 50s. I don't know when they.
That's what it says in our notes.
Yeah.
And they haven't made any changes during that time, so.
Pretty well maintained, too.
Seems pretty reasonable to me, but that's why I was just curious what the objection was, because that's not a major street on the side either.
Right.
All right.
That's our last case.
Okay, that brings us, I don't think we have any board appointments, but on the mayor's report, I've been talking to KO about how we could change our rules of procedure. I think, when an applicant comes down to speak and present, we give them 20 minutes. I'd like to reduce that to 10 minutes. If there's questions, we can always ask as council members. But rather than, we're getting to where we have a lot of these cases, and if you have 20 minutes in the front of every one of them and you have 10 of them, pretty soon you've spent a lot of time. And so, and not that we don't want to hear what they want to talk about, but I was thinking if we could set up a procedure that basically, and I've been a little lax on this because I used to be more stringent on it, but basically a 10-minute presentation by the applicant, and then asking if there was anyone to speak for or against, and giving them their 3 minutes to speak for or against or present there, and then giving the applicant 5 minutes after that to rebut or to explain any of the questions that were brought up by the individuals that spoke for or against, and then asking the applicant they give their rebuttal, that 5 minutes, asking the council, do you have any questions of the applicant? And asking your questions then, and this is what I used to do, then I would close it to the floor. so there was no more back and forth, and return it to the council for discussion or motion. So that's kind of what I'd like to get back to. If everybody is amenable to it, it's something that KO can look into and see what we can do, and if we can, what we can do. I just kind of looked at this as an outline of how we could deal with that. And, well, that's one point. The other point I was going to make is the one that Al made earlier. You know, trying to decipher these things sometimes on the fly gets us in trouble. We don't always remember what we agreed to because somebody will say something and then we'll assume that's in there and it isn't. So I think if it's a major change, that there's two options. One, that we say, look, this is a major change. We haven't really seen it, but other than just right here in front of all of us, we can either postpone it till the next meeting, or if it's a big major change, we could say we want it to go back to planning and zoning for reevaluation. So those are the two things as I've kind of seen us in the last few weeks try to go through some of this stuff. Those are a couple of things that came to my mind, and that's just me. So your feedback at this time, if you think that's something that would work. Kao, did you want to respond?
Yeah, Mayor, I was just going to say, we were planning to bring back the rules of procedure item that we've been working on with Councilman Block at the next regular scheduled meeting. So we'll work with Councilman Block on both of these items, and we'll post it accordingly and bring you all some options to kind of take a look at how to get this done.
Is everybody in some type of concurrence that we're okay with that? I don't want to be stepping out on the point and I'm the only one out there. Okay, thank you. John, go ahead.
So, Kao, that would not be the budget retreat, but rather on the 29th?
Right on the 29th.
Okay, thank you.
Brad?
Yeah, I think that's great. I appreciate you moving that forward. And I'll talk to Kao. I had an interesting reading of state law on the timing allocated for and against a topic, which is
Yep, happy to address all those
a
questions.
little strange, because we do have to have open comment on items on the agenda, and we have to have roughly equivalent time, was my reading. So I just want to make sure we comply with that. And again, ironically, I can observe that HOAs are bound by this, state agencies, we are, any variety of any government agency except State House meetings, which don't have to comply with these. So, you know, and I wonder what their explanation why they wouldn't have the public be able to speak. So, but with that said, I totally agree, Mayor. I think that would provide everybody sort of a good template, and maybe even introducing at the beginning of the meeting a little bit of the rules of the road, because if somebody gets motivated to come down on one case and they want to participate in their government, they may not be following us every Thursday on this must-see TV. So we can at least provide sort of a roadmap for them when they do come down, or when they do want to speak about a topic that's important, that we make sure everybody gets the chance to speak, and then, but that they also know the rules.
Al?
Yeah, that goes to the point that I think raised, and we talked about it amongst ourselves, that once P&Z looks at and it's not just P&Z, but once we have our work session, our work session is here to get ready for that evening. And that means if we get this last minute change slid under, I walk into the last one, and I remember looking at you, Jocelyn, and I said, where did this come from? Oh, well, I just got it. So the other thing that I think is critical as we go forward is to be able to give, if people want to change, they have a real opportunity to go back or postpone or come to the work session and put it in front of us. Because if not, it really kind of puts us in a different order, and I don't think that's appropriate. So at the end of the day. And so I do appreciate us trying to get to a more smoother, and maybe being able to send, like you say, Brad, people need to understand what the process is and the procedure. So thank you, Mayor, for bringing it up.
Okay, we're going to take a few things out of order because we have some people here. So we're going to do the future in focus, the convention center, the police, and the Irving Arts next, and then we'll come back to, up to there. So I had shared with Maura, so I think she's ready to rock and roll. Maura, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and just a quick acknowledgement and shout out to Richard Stewart, our chair of our board of directors, who is here as well. So thank you for giving him a little bit of his day back, since I seem to take up the most of his spare time lately. So just quickly going through our future and focus presentation. I know you're down to the last couple of these that you'll be seeing. Oops. Our role is to enhance the community's economy and quality of life by marketing and advocating for the development of Irving as a destination, which generates visitor revenues, which helps the city's bottom line. We do that by soliciting meetings and events, distributing leads for our hotels and event partners, servicing those groups, operating and maintaining the convention center, and paying close attention to any legislative or regulatory issues that can impact the industry and the community. And then providing destination-specific advertising, public and media relations. We have 21 full-time equivalent staff members, as well as 22 part-time, which are really 22 as needed. These are our convention services staff that are loaner staff we provide to various events. Our departmental structure, City Council, who appoints our board of directors, the board who manages me, and then our 4 core departments internally: finance and administration, marketing and communications, sales and services, and the convention center operations, and then a number of supporting contractors that we outsource certain functions to. On the convention center side, a little different kind of org chart. We have our general manager, Tom Meehan, his core leadership team, and then the primary departments within that structure are our events department, sales department. So on the convention center sales team, the convention center staff sells everything within 12 months. The Convention and Visitors Bureau sells everything outside of 12 months, as well as anything going into hotels. Finance department, operations, and food and beverage. The impact of all of that, this was our study updated in 2023, data through 2022, 4.28 million visitors a year in 2022, spending $3.45 billion with a B dollars that year, and supporting 23,000 jobs in the community, and a payroll of about $765 million, saving every household through visitor spending $757 a year. Our performance measures are primarily due to what we refer to as definites. So those are contracts signed for Irving groups into Irving hotels. The leads, we don't always bat 100. We're probably usually in about the 50% range of leads we distribute versus that which we can cold catch and close. Our marketing outreach, inquiries that we are able to generate through that marketing outreach, social media influence, impressions from media, advertising equivalency, so that's the value of placements that we get, including the PR value where we didn't have to pay to place those, but we got the attention. Convention center measures were really focused in terms of the convention center's revenues on rental income as well as food and beverage, so you can see where the market fell off the cliff. Midway through the 2019-20 fiscal year, and then where we finished out 2022-23. We are on pace this year for what will be a record-setting year, on top of a record-setting year in both revenues and expenses. For the year that just completed, we exceeded our annual room night goal and reached 137%, 136% of it. We hosted 209 events at the convention center with 178,000 attendees, generated a little under 6.5 million impressions, 14,000 website visitors, 150,000, almost 158,000 social media followers, received 3 bronze Adrians. The Adrian Awards are kind of the Oscars of our advertising side of our industry, but they are about results. So this is not just about looking good, it's about making good happen. We were named one of the top convention and visitors bureaus in the South by Meetings Today, one of our trade publications. We were recognized by CVent, another important trade entity as a top 50 list of destinations. We were the advertiser of the year for Conference Direct, and that was not about who spent the most, but about whose ads translated for the Conference Direct travel advisors, and then a Smart Meetings Platinum Choice Awards winner. For our long-range outlook, we really are laser focused on our long-term resilience. We have a very volatile revenue source. Nothing's proved that more than the last couple of years, but we are going to continue to prioritize investments into capital projects for the convention center, investments into our own catastrophic operating reserve. We're paying attention right now to the Senate's interim charges regarding the use of hotel occupancy taxes, looking for issues and opportunities that will impact the use of hotel occupancy taxes. We want to make sure that Irving will be eligible for programs such as the project financing zone, which is the mechanism being used to do the Dallas and Fort Worth Convention Center expansions right now. Looking for any other legislation that can positively or negatively impact the industry, and assure that there is a peaceful sunset of the current Irving hotel tax legislation, which will sunset on September 1st, 2026, and getting to a win-win for the reallocation of those funds. We're also working with our peers in the region on a hotel development study to determine market needs, supply and demand, and then also we're looking at an edition of that report that would identify any Irving properties that are at risk, and we're really looking at risk to mean properties that are in danger of losing their current flags and being put through a performance improvement project, lowering the flag and therefore lowering the property value and lowering the average daily rate and creating a different set of issues for us over the long term. For 24-25, we'll be working with the Arts Center and the city staff to look to update the Irving Hotel Occupancy Tax Ordinance to ideally sweep any funds exceeding the current arts cap, which is 15% plus $1.6 million, to historic preservation to carry through August 30th of 2026. To simultaneously sweep any excess in the convention center debt for convention center maintenance operations, to work with our board, the Hotel and Lodging Association, to create that win-win with the Irving Arts Center to reallocate a portion of that hotel tax effective September 1st, and then for everybody's mental health and well-being to ideally at the end of that calculate all the allocations to a set percentage of the 7% effective that same September 1st. Again, I mentioned that market study regionally, and then for our next fiscal year, we've identified just under $2 million of convention center capital improvement needs. This is a lot of data to look at, but this is our outline of our key capital improvement requirements for 24-25, getting to that $2 million. These are all for the convention center and are all funded in the budget that we have proposed for you. And then the year following that, again, updating and finalizing the Irving Hotel Occupancy Tax Ordinance after that art sunset. We anticipate by this year the desire to add an additional staffing position, a research and performance data analyst to help us further refine our markets and market segments. We're looking at, for that year, approximately $2.4, just about $2.5 million in CIP needs for the convention center. Again, anticipate fully funding those needs in that budget year. The year after that, assuming we are able to put the hotel occupancy tax ordinance to bed, we will look to restart the opportunities for an Irving Tourism Public Improvement District. We'll work with the third party to get the plan done and to get the ownership support done. And then we will create the legal documents necessary to create the organization. We assume that's going to take us about 12 to 18 months to complete the process, and therefore it would roll out in 28, 29, and or 29-30. Once the TPID is in place, we anticipate we will need 2 additional full-time positions to support it, one for program oversight and delivery, one for accounting. Both of those positions would be funded by the TPID as well as all of its programs. And then additionally, there would be hours billed by us to the TPID for various program support elements and management. We're also anticipating in that window of time an additional 2 full-time employees for national sales markets, pending other potential developments that could be happening in the Irving marketplace. Again, with our rolling 20-year capital plan, we're looking at $2.5 million for capital needs in 2026, 27, and the following year. And with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Questions, Amora? Al?
Hi, Maura, how are
Yes, sir.
you?
Good.
Going back to the forecasted resource needs, update and finalize Irving Hotel occupancy tax ordinance after Arts sunset, September 1, 2026. Speak to me a little bit about that.
So that's the legislation that was put in place in 2007 that allowed the arts in Irving to be protected for what was initially going to be 15 more years, was expanded to 19 more years. They were due to be rolled back to 15% of the hotel tax once the debt on the Art Center was paid off. Because they were not going to be able to survive on that, we worked together collectively to allow the Art Center to receive 15% plus $1.6 million to get through initially 2022, then expanded to 26. Those numbers were arrived at and those periods of time were arrived at because that was the difference between the Art Center's ability to operate in the red versus the black, and the amount of time it was going to take for the 15% to then mature to a level that that funding amount could be lived on. So that is coming to a sunset. It was extended the legislative session after it was first put into place. It sunsets as of September 1, 2026. We recognize there are some needs that historic preservation has that aren't currently being addressed in order to make sure that the museums are well taken care of and well funded looking down the road. So my objective has been, and Todd Hawkins has heard this from me since he got here, for us to work together to find a win-win solution that I can sell it to the Hotel Association and everybody feels like they win and we're in a good place from that.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and turn my question now to Chris. Chris, the eventuality of that puts a different kind of spin on how we then not lose not only the capability, but going forward, what now is called the IDAC, the IDAC. So it's just something I want to bring up. I'm not asking you to make comments at this point, but it's pretty obvious to me if it goes the other way, then we've got a decision we got to make. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, when the decision was made to move forward with the Irving Archives and Museum, there was a known and understood $450,000 annual operating gap that would require in terms of additional subsidy. Our intention certainly is to recommend a solution that closes that gap. Yes, sir.
Questions, comments for Maura? Thank you, Maura.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Same presentation I saw the other day. You didn't even change it. Richard, thank you for your and your board's leadership. We appreciate it very much. Next, we have the police chief to talk about how he's dealing with the bad guys in Irving.
It's tough going after Maura. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Derek Miller, Chief of Police. Going to go over our future in focus. As you know, the police department's mission is very, very simple. We're to protect and safeguard the lives and property of our residents, our visitors, and our businesses. While doing so, we ensure that we treat everybody we come in contact with or we encounter with professionalism, dignity, and respect. And that is based basically on our purpose, which is to protect the vulnerable from harm. So everything that we do is in that focus. Your police department has a very diverse portfolio. Most police departments live with about 3 bureaus, and they're always divided between an investigative, a field operations, and a support bureau. What we have here at the Irving Police Department is field operation. You see those, that's our uniform officers in patrol. They're proactively on the streets. You see them every day enforcing traffic laws and responding to calls. Our Investigative Services Bureau investigates crime. We also have our community engagement within this bureau, crime prevention, and our school resource officers. Our Administrative Bureau is where our recruiting and training lies, our detention, 911, dispatch services, property and evidence. This fourth bucket we've added, and I'll show it to you and talk about it a little bit, is business services. Business services handles all of our fiscal and budgetary affairs, case filing, open records requests, legal, and contracts. The police department also has emergency management. Jason Carey and his group do an outstanding job, as you well know, coordinating emergency response efforts and disaster preparedness. And then, of course, animal services, which addresses complaints and manages very animal-related issues within the city. The total authorized staff for the police department is 403 sworn police officers, and then an additional 214 what I'm calling professional staff. Heretofore, they were known as civilians. Civilian, in my opinion, doesn't capture exactly what they're doing. They are very professional in what they're doing, so I refer to them as professional staff, and then another 13 part-time professional staff help us run the organization. You'll notice this is the org chart. Before this year, we only had the blue, the green, and the red. The purple is new. The purple is that Business Services Bureau that we added last year. Council was able, thank you very much for allowing City Manager for Business Service Manager position. And what that's allowed us to do is take all those administrative functions from fiscal affairs to records and legal and put them in a bucket that's managed by professional staff. And so the focus is to keep the officers on the mission that I spoke about earlier. So that, with respect to efficiency, that's bearing fruit. We still need a few more pieces there to build our foundation for the future, but that is, like I said, is bearing fruit. Some of the performance measures that we are highlighting, we have many, but I just wanted to talk to you about a few. Violent crime, we see violent crime. We were on pace for what I was hoping to be a slight reduction. I'm still pushing for a slight reduction in violent crime. Unfortunately, this year so far, we've had several incidents of violent crime. We've had several incidents of multiple homicides. And so right now we sit at 11 homicides. This time last year, we sat at 7 homicides. So it's hopefully the summer will be good to us, and we don't want to lose any lives or anyone to this violent crime, but we're hoping that we don't lose any more. Property crime is going down. We're very happy about that. It continues to go down. I think between the work of our community itself and then our police department, we're seeing crime go down. Residential burglaries are down 17%. Thefts are down 12%. And then burglary motor vehicles, which was driving a lot of our property crime, are actually seen to be going down, which is good news. One of the things that we're extremely proud about is our community engagement, community outreach programs. You know better than most that one of our missions and the way we accomplish our mission is to make sure we can't do anything without the consent of the community, and we have to listen to the community, so we need to meet the community where they are. So community engagement is extremely important to our police department. We have a division within the police department called Community Services, but it's not just their responsibility to engage the community. It's everyone's responsibility to engage the community. But this group has intentionally engaged so far over 2,500 participants across many activities this year alone. Now, we have programs from crime watch meetings to our police academies, which are given in both English and Spanish. We have numerous events this summer. You know, if you don't know, I'm extremely proud of our school resource officers who this summer managed hoops and kicks. We had over 150 kids a day at our soccer program, and almost over 40 kids a day at our basketball program. So that's kids who otherwise didn't have anything to do, coming in and hanging out with us, and so we're engaging them at a high level. As school is wrapping up, we're getting ready. Ramping up. We have our back to school programs. So the Shop Talk program is still going strong. We're getting ready to have back to school programs with that. And I mentioned earlier, well, I didn't mention our Unidos program. So we're extremely proud. We're touching a lot of people, meeting a lot of people, touching a lot of lives in that space. Our animal services, the way we measure animal services is our live release rate. Live release rate is the percentage of animals leaving the shelter by other means than euthanasia or in-death shelter. And unfortunately, we're above what we see a state average of 76%. We're at a live release rate of I'm sorry, yeah, 70%, but we're at a live release rate of 77% so far. Unfortunately, this year we've suffered many unfortunate diseases within the animal service. We've had feline calesi, feline panleukemia viruses that go through, and it just causes a lot of havoc within the animal shelters as we bring animals in and out of the shelter. But our staff down there, despite oftentimes being short-staffed, is really working hard and doing a yeoman's job down there. Our future and focus accomplishment in past years have been some things we're really proud of. Is you've heard presentations about our crisis response unit, before that was known as our mental health response unit, and this is a multiple disciplinary unit that goes out with our clinicians and our police officers to really meet with those folks who are in crisis and try to divert them as best we can out of the criminal justice system and get them the help and assistance they need when they need it and where they need it. And that was funded by some part-time counselors, grant-funded counselors and police officers. We accomplished that in 2021, 22. We formed our homeless outreach team. This group was specifically designed to build relationships and help those dealing with homelessness. You've heard me say before, homelessness is not against the law. So our jails don't need to have these individuals in it who could otherwise be diverted from the criminal justice system, thus keeping our police officers on the street. And so that's proven to be very effective. We were able to get some funded positions, adding animal care technicians as well that year, and then adding the counselors to the Family Advocacy Center, which you've got presentations previously on that organization out there. Those guys are doing amazing work as well. Last year, you saw us come on board with our real-time crime center, which is policing smarter. We're actually using intelligence to get our first responders where they need to be, when they need to be, and quicker. And we're able to do this by the addition of flock cameras and the software that supports that, which is known as Fuses. We have made numerous arrests, recovered numerous stolen vehicles, and recoveries totaling last year $1.2 million, and we're already at $2.2 million in recovery of stolen assets as a result of the work being done in our real-time crime center. The department we had this year, I spoke about it already, we reorganized the police department and developed the business services division by adding of the civilian administrator there. And then we funded more positions last year in the animal care technicians, our property evidence room, and I mentioned the business services manager already. As we go forward, here are some of the things. I know there's a lot of questions about what the police department looks for in the future. Right now, our biggest thing is to complete a staffing and facility master's planning study, which includes a study of sworn and professional personnel to determine the optimal staffing needs, as well as master facilities needs going forward in the future due to population or development of growth. So right now, those two studies are underway. The staffing study is being done. We are continually pulling data because I want to make sure that our consultant has all the information, the proper information, doing the proper work to give me an idea on how many police officers we're going to get. We're going to have to grow the police department, but we want to do it in a measured, smart way, and so that's what this work is doing. At the same time, I'm going to tell you, we're busting at the seams as well. So we're going to have places and strategies on where to put these people as the police department gets, 3, 5, 10 years into the future. So we're doing all that in an intentional way, supported by data. We are going to continue to enhance the real-time crime center with technology. That is a must. That's proven, like I mentioned earlier, to be a force multiplier and is allowing us to do more things and focus on more crime suppression. And you're going to see us, and I'll talk about it in a second, add drone as first responders to try to increase our use of our resources and our response times. One of our goals is to establish a public safety officer program. A public safety officer program would be professional staff positions that can come alongside sworn positions and help us do our job. For example, there are many calls for service that are very low priority that our officers are having to go to, where we could utilize the use of professional staff that would be able to handle those things and then make us more efficient. Another example would be anytime one of our cars needs a preventative maintenance or something with a vehicle, a police officer has to drive that vehicle to Fleet Services, thus taking the police officer out of their beat. And so we think that there's smarter ways of doing things, and with these public safety officers, hopefully we can utilize those to make sure that we keep our resources where they need to be and utilize them in the best way we can. And in order to do that, what we'd like to do is leverage our partnerships with our local partners to enhance our recruiting efforts. We've got plans now and relationships through our Explorer program, and as we come through the independent school districts, and then hopefully with North Lake, where we can actually offer and start recruiting kids or young individuals come through our programs, come through our high schools, and then trying to get them in their college, and then at the same time give them a part-time job, either a PSO job or a job in detention, to try to encourage them to serve here at home. And so there's many relationships that we're going to leverage to enhance our recruiting efforts to try to get some homegrown individuals into the police department to serve with us. And then our future goal is we need to expand some specialized teams to target some specialized things, and then develop a central patrol district. We need to expand the crisis response unit. We need to expand the homeless outreach team. Shane Diller and I are working on future plans to have a multiple disciplinary team where we bring police officers and code enforcement folks together to try to tackle some very specific concerns, quality of life concerns that you yourselves are concerned about in a more effective and efficient way. And we think that we can do that by partnering it up. I think we're going to have to look at how we do patrol. We have a north and a south patrol division. With the dynamics of what's going on in the urban center, we're going to have to get more intentional about how we police the urban center. And so that's also a future goal of ours. This coming year, again, we've asked for two PSOs to start the PSO program, enhance our real-time crime center with a drone first responder program. We need to update our alert equipment. Alert is the means by which, or the methodology by which we respond to active threat, active shooter. Last year, as a result of Uvalde, the legislature put on every police department some higher standards with respect to training in response to active shooters, and it's going to cause us to spend more time training, which is not a bad thing. It was a mandate that we're going to have to figure out how to accomplish. And then, unfortunately, we are very fortunate to get some grant-funded positions, but as you well know, a lot of the funding for these grants are running out or being reduced, and we've gotten to a point where some of the services that we've accomplished through the use of grants have become legacy-type services that need to remain. So I've had to ask that we take some of those positions, in particular this mental health clinician that was once a grant-funded position, and bring it under our umbrella. And then we need to enhance our response to open records requests with a legal assistant. The police department by itself fields more open records requests than the entire city combined. Right now we're on pace to over 3,500 open records requests we're predicting this year. And you have to understand, an open records request for a police department is, we want to see the video of a traffic stop. Well, if there are two officers on a traffic stop wearing body cameras and car cameras, and the traffic stop is 30 minutes long, that's someone sitting in front of a screen watching every one of those videos, making sure that we're redacting and make sure we're not giving things out that we're not supposed to. So it's a very onerous process that we have to adhere to, so we need help in that space. Again, forecasting on 25-26, you'll see us asking to expand our PSO program. Again, enhancing real-time crime center, enhancing the crisis response unit I mentioned earlier, and then whenever I get the results from our staffing and facility assessments, what I'll be doing is working with the city manager, so I don't blow him up all at once, and come up with a smart way to where we can implement staffing increases in police officers and in whatever our facility results are in a smart way, and hopefully we can implement them in that year. And then as we go into fiscal year 26, 27 and beyond, to continue to implement those things in a smart way. And that's all I have. Questions?
Questions of the chief? Al, or John first, then Al.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Chief. Quick question on the community outreach. You mentioned, I think, 2,500 attendees at the community outreach events. Was that over the last 12 months or just this calendar year?
Over the this calendar year. Okay, this calendar year. So
that's very well attended. So
very well attended.
That's very good to hear. In talking with with some of the conferences we go to, I was talking about our community outreach efforts and bragging, to be quite honest, about our community outreach efforts with some councilmen from other cities, and they all said, yeah, we tried that and never took. So I'm very glad to see that the attendance continues to be strong. That's a tremendous tool for your department to keep people who are high risk for falling into criminal networks to keep them out of that. So I love that. I wanted to ask also about the PSO program. And maybe you touched on this and I just missed it, in which case, shame on me. But would that program cover things like parking citations and those sorts of those sorts of engagements where you're not directly confronting someone who personally committed a crime, but it's more like a...
Yes, sir. We have overall we have a differential call response, and crimes or calls for service are prioritized, and of course the terrible ones that you would think are priority 1, and then we have priority 15, 16 calls that just need to check on things, and then so we would utilize them in many ways to try. Parking would be one of those, abandoned property calls, lost bicycles and things of that nature are the types of calls that PSOs would be able to handle. Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Al.
Hi, Chief. How you doing?
Great, thank you.
We've come through the last couple of weeks of heightened awareness, especially dealing with the Secret Service and some of the gaps. And I'm wondering, at this point, I'm just going to throw some things out, because under your special operations section, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to really continue to be ready for whatever comes down the road. But I'm wondering if there might be an opportunity to kind of put a fusion unit that basically looks at communications net with all up and down, meaning fed to state to local, which means us. And secondly, because it's coming out pretty clear what happened in this situation in Pennsylvania with the former president, but also how there was a gap on communications within the drone and how that could have played a role and it didn't. And so I'm kind of reaching out, and I bet there's going to be funds available from the federal agencies to really try to look at this and help. So I'm just kind of putting it out there, because at the end of the day, when you look at what we've got coming across an open border, and when you've got both, over 100 that are on the terrorist watch list and a few other things, we've got to be prepared, especially, this is a kind of the point of the spear for that kind of action. So I'm just talking out loud, just kind of seeing how you'd react to this.
Yep. Well, first of all, that was a lot of the energy behind the real-time crime center. That we have a fusion center in this region that we get information and intel from, but I wanted to make sure that Irving had its own capacity in that regard. So our real-time crime center makes sure that we're in touch with the Dallas Fusion Center with respect to information and intelligence. Beyond that, we have Irving police officers who are temporarily assigned to the ATF, the FBI, Joint Terrorism Task Force. We have TFOs in the Secret Service as well. I sit on the executive board of directors for the Joint Terrorism Task Force in Dallas, and the purpose for all those things is to make sure that we have vision as best we can, as best with the federal government will share with us, this information and intelligence as it comes through. But exacerbating all of this is the communication piece, and you'll find, I think, through some of the debriefings that there are many communications breakdowns that occur that I think we have people in place where that we would hopefully be immune to that. So I hear you. One of the reorgs was also to put the Special Operation Division back. Last year, we didn't have the Special Operation units within the police department were scattered across the Administrative Bureau and Investigative Bureau. And so part of that, when we put business services and taking some of that administrative responsibilities off those badges, was to create Special Operations Division again. So you'll see that all of our specialized units now fall within one silo to make sure that we're more responsive.
Do you all still deal with Epic as another liaison?
Epic, you're going to get me on the soapbox. Epic could do better. We like, again, all that comes through with the advent of fusion centers across the regions. Epic was, I think, is kind of lost its identity a little bit. But I think that, maybe the fusion, that's the government. That's a federal government thing.
Brad.
Yeah, something you said sparked my mind on a topic I'd like to review at some point. It's not just police, but certainly you bear the brunt of it, but the open records, every domestic case we have that involves police interaction where we typically would subpoena those, and so I could see in the kind of information, there's so much more information nowadays with it's each body cam and each, there's lots of reports by different people, but I kind of like to review where we are in open records, because I know we've had a few lately, and some of them seem rather voluminous to me and time-consuming, and I don't think we get compensated for, even if it's like an outside the city person, we don't get compensated for our research and review, which can be quite lengthy. Jennifer will spend a lot of time on that, and it's just a thought, maybe we can look at what the statute says and see what we think about maybe some revisions. And yes, records should be open, but we've also had people, we had, I think, one kind of really notorious guy who in the past who was abusive with requests. But the volume of these and the staff commitment to reviewing everything it's a lot of effort. And so that's something I'd like to take a look at, because that's a lot of requests. That's a lot of staff time that we bear the cost, whether it's a reporter or somebody from somewhere else, that maybe the legislature would consider that it's, this is something, if you have a reasonable request that's simple, it's not going to cost much, but some of them seem rather broad to me, so.
The act does limit what we can charge for, and those numbers, $15 an hour for labor, hasn't been updated in over 10 years at least. And we cannot charge for research. We can charge to compile this essentially, or if IT is needed. So the state law is pretty limited in what we can charge, and we don't charge for every request. Most requests, we find it, we provide it. It is the voluminous requests that are few and far between, but they do take the most time.
Do you know if the state funds this mandate?
I'm just going to smile.
Okay.
No. I can tell you that our open record, we're projecting an 87.2% increase this year alone in open records requests.
Wow. Abdul.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, thank you very much. I really appreciate the presentation. I have a couple of questions. The community outreach participation has been very good, right? And how does it help in crime reduction? Do we have any numbers or percentages?
We do not. The goal, however, is to get to build and maintain trust in the community, so when crime occurs, that they will in fact call us. What my fear is, and what we've realized sometimes, is communities won't trust the police, then therefore they won't call the police, and then crime will flourish. And so the purpose, the sole purpose of community engagement is to build and maintain trust with the community. Every time something happens somewhere else in the country, negative, it adversely affects us. And so notwithstanding some type of intentional community outreach or engagement, we'll suffer for that. So with respect to a correlation between specific programs and how it affects crime, there is none. These are this social construct or an idea that if people will trust us and believe in us, then they'll feel better to call us, and then we'll have a better chance to protect them from harm.
So is this a committee, or is it consist of group of police officers and group of community representatives, or how is it function?
No, this department has a legacy of community engagement. So we have it's a direct initiatives, but yet it's ideal as well. With respect to how do we do it, we have a community services division, which is a group of police officers that in fact are managing and maintaining and intentionally putting on programming in all parts of this community in an intentional way. And that's what you'll see our programming, from POW to Hoops and Kicks to Nidos to our police citizens police academies.
So is there a Irving City representative or residents representatives participate in that, or is just the officers?
No, we have all types of citizens that come to participate in all of our programs. So the nearly 3,000 people that we've met with this year alone is us having programs and inviting the community to be with. For example, we host crime awareness meetings, and we've had at several we have 41 residents from the Cameron Valley apartment complex come and meet with us in Crime Watch meetings, and another 24 meet with us at other apartments. So we go out in the community in an intentional way. We take the time to go out and engage the community in many forms to try to build relationships.
The other thing which you say, utilize local partnerships to enhance local organizations. What does it mean by local organizations?
That was in response to what we're doing in what we hope to do with our recruiting. So those enhancements and those in partnerships, we'd like to bring on new partnerships with the Irving Independent School District in an intentional way to get students to realize that policing is a noble profession, that we want them to come and join us either through programmings at Singley or our police academy, our police explorer programs. Same with Carrollton Farmers Branch School District. We have relationships with UD, we have relationships with North Lake, and the idea is to try to get students to, we can get you a part-time job and also help you get the schools will help you get your education. And the hope and desire there is after that you'll come and want to serve here in Irving. We utilize our Shop Talk, the network of African American and Hispanic salons is an amazing relationship and programs that we have to try to build and maintain those relationships. So we want to utilize these local partnerships to build relationships.
One final, how do the community people enroll in academic leadership programs like Irving 360?
Yeah, we widely use social media to push these programs out. There are several officers in the community that are working churches or mosques that we make sure that they understand that we have police academies that are, right now, I got 22 students enrolled for our next one. We need more students, actually. So we have them, we publicize them on our websites and things like that to get the community.
How many max we could enroll in a batch?
As many as want to come. As many people who want to
As
come.
many? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Appreciate your hard work the guys are doing out there. I like Councilman Block. When I get together with the mayors, it's always talking about what our police officers are doing, and they're always amazed at the time at what we were able to do, and especially the community interaction and how we're dealing with the youth. And I was, of course, I interact with the Dart police chief and several others, and they're always like giving me a hard time about what you do and how good you are at it. And I always tell them, don't be trying to steal our people from us. And
right.
so I don't try to, they always say, well, what are you offering? I said, I don't know, you have to go look.
Yeah, yeah. If I could take a point of personal privilege here, I'm going to tell you, getting to see close up every day these men and women who come to work to do this job. If you knew I tell Mr. Hillman all the time, every morning I get these reports of these things that go on that most people don't know about. And so the things that these officers are dealing with and seeing and responding to, the crimes that they are solving, we've got 11 murders this year, but I think all but one of them have been solved, which is, you can't find that anywhere. These detectives who are going out, crime scene folks going out, the community engagement that's going on, it's just your police department that is greatest strength are its people, and they're amazing.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Todd?
Excellent, thank you. I have the great distinction of being the last Future in Focus presentation for every year that we've done these. I prefer to believe it's because I bring the fun and celebration, so we end on a high note. If it's any different, don't tell me. All right, this up here. Is it up there? Let me see. ICVB, I do not. See our presentation, is it? We got you, 1 second. Okay.
You just didn't have enough to pick from. There we go.
Excellent. All right, Mayor Stouffer, members of the City Council, City Manager Hillman, and City staff. I'm Todd Eric Hawkins, Executive Director of the Irving Department of Arts and Culture, which you will hear referred to as IDAC quite a lot now, and I'll explain why. On behalf of the Irving Arts and Culture Board, I would like to thank you for your continued support and for the opportunity to come and present our Future in Focus presentation today. I also want to acknowledge the presence of one of our key staff members. Jennifer Landry is here. She is the Director of Museums and responsible for much of the incredible work that has happened that we'll talk about today. The mission of the Department of Arts and Culture, this is not where I want to be. Look there. The mission of the Department of Arts and Culture is to engage visitors through thought-provoking programs and dynamic exhibits that explore the history, the arts, and the evolving culture of our community and region, and to serve the citizens of Irving through the support and development of artistic and humanities-based opportunities. This is a slightly changed mission, combining the Irving Arts Center's mission with that of Irving Archives and Museum to develop one mission statement for the entire department, a department that we are now referring to as IDAC. Irving Department of Arts and Culture. This new mission statement is part of the bylaws that you will vote on this evening, that we will get you a revision for before that. Key services for IDAC: performing arts programming, visual arts programming, resident arts organization grants. We have 9 resident art organizations. Community services grant. We are a rental facility for community cultural events. We have historic preservation, the archives, preservation of historic sites. We get national recognition and promote tourism to the city of Irving. The department is run with a staff of 65, that is 27 full-time and 28 part-time across both organizations. Here's the org chart for the department. That does encompass both the staff of the Irving Arts Center and Irving Archives and Museums. Key performance indicators for the last 12 months: 702 events, programs, and exhibitions, over 49,000 tickets sold, 262 grant-funded programs run for the past 12 months, 10,615 attendees to our outreach programs, and 7,015 visitors to Irving Archives and Museum. This represents a huge increase in visitors for Irving Archives and Museum. I'm very proud of the work that they do and their increased involvement and engagement with the community. Just as an example, last June we had 152 visitors to Irving Archives and Museum. This June we had 952. A great testament to the team's connection with the community. Accomplishments for the department: the successful completion of the 2021 to 2023 IDAC strategic plan. It went so well, we did it again, and we'll talk more about that here in a second. For the Irving Arts Center, we produced the Texas Sculpture Group 2023 membership exhibition. This was the first exhibition for this group. It got statewide popularity and a lot of publicity. We also had a pop-up exhibition and opening event for Women Life Freedom DFW that also did the same thing, got a lot of media attention and a lot of press throughout Texas and the nation. We have been focused very heavily on capital improvements, keeping the Arts Center one of the jewels in our crown. Capital improvements happening right now as we speak. There is no air conditioner at the Arts Center. We are getting a new roof, which is bond funded. Thank you to the citizens and the city council. We are getting a new HVAC, which that is actually incorrect. We did savings for ARPA, so that's where that's coming from, our own fund. Retrofit of lighting in both theaters, that is ARPA funded, and a basement redesign, ARPA funded as well. We'll also be concentrating on the sculpture garden lighting repair and upgrade. It started to look really dark in recent years. We want to make sure when the street opens up in front of us that you can actually see the building and everything there. Boy, it's been a long time. I don't know how to work one of these anymore. For Irving Archives and Museum, Irving Archives and Museum and Irving Black Arts Council were jointly awarded the American Association of State and Local Histories Award for Excellence for the exhibition A Green Book. We curated with local artist Jaime Arredondo. Jaime graduated from Irving High School. He had an exhibition called the Popol Vuh, the Sacred Book of the Quiche through Illustration, which is now a nationally traveling exhibition through Mid-America Arts Alliance. What that means is that it travels everywhere that picks it up. It starts with the name Irving Archives and Museum, starting right here in Irving, Texas. We worked with community partner Yellow Heart Memorial to mark the 4th anniversary of the pandemic that hosted hundreds of visitors from all over the country. I hope you were able to see that on the front cover of the Dallas Morning News. And in partnership with the Friends of the Irving Museums, we rescued the Big State sign, which we are still trying to figure out what to do with. So, resources needed. We're going to have we have been hard at work over the last few months convening stakeholders and community members to put together a strategic plan. The results of those consensus building workshops have formed the basis for our new strategic plan. The overarching question for our planning sessions was, how can we, over the next 3 to 5 years, effectively align our mission, vision, and values to enhance and leverage tourism opportunities, effectively serve and engage our community, and proactively plan for the inevitable evolution of our organization, while also ensuring financial, physical, and human sustainability? That's a big question. We spent 2 days answering that question. On Friday, April 26th, we brought together 38 individuals from the community, stakeholders, and strategic partners to lay out a vision for the future of our department with a consensus building workshop around the question, what do we want to see in place in 3 to 5 years as a result of our unified actions. The participants' collective answers were that in 3 to 5 years as a result of our unified actions, we want to see diverse programs that support robust citywide arts and culture scene that includes expanded and exceptional food and beverage and citywide arts and culture tours. Funded operations with long-term fiscal sustainability that includes both sustainable and diverse revenue streams. Engaged and informed people as a result of consistent arts and culture communications and recognition for cultural contributors. On Saturday the 27th, 38 members of the community came together for 2 more sessions. The morning session addressed blocks and barriers that were standing in the way of achieving that vision. The participants' collective answers were that we believed that an overabundance of disorganized priorities stifles and impacts productivity and morale. Conflicting visions and changing priorities impact progress. Inadequate and outdated infrastructure and technology impacts and diminishes quality performance and programs. Restricted and outdated rules hinder growth and progress. Insufficient outreach inhibits participation. Uncoordinated communications obscure growth and awareness, and insufficient funding hinders sustainability. During the afternoon session on Saturday, April 27th, the participants were asked to answer the question, what 2-year innovative substantial actions will deal with our blocks, incorporate our commitment, and move us toward our vision? The participants' collective answers created the following strategic directions. Positioning for sustainability with increased funding while updating and maintaining venues. The first year, we will be working under that to hire a new assistant executive director. We are in the middle of succession planning for the Irving Arts Center. I had the great benefit 10 years ago of walking into a staff that had been there for 25 years. They've now been there for 35 years, and many of them are ready to leave. So we are going to be working on succession planning. First, with hiring a new assistant executive director. Creating a memo of understanding with Friends of the Museum. Sorry for the legal word in here. I know that this trips a lot of things. Really, we just mean it's an agreement to show what we are going to be doing and how we are going to be performing with each other. Develop a plan for unveiling the IEC renovations, all of that great work that's going on. A lot of that is going to go unseen unless we do an open house and bring people in and show them what the new LED lights will do. Build a formal agreement with the city for maintenance of Irving Arts Center. This is all part of our sustainability plan, trying to deal with that $1.6 million reallocation. Under cultivating partnerships, we have a memo of understanding and policy for community partnerships. A lot of our successes have been working with other nonprofits, having them come in and tell their story or tell their community story. We want to really outline what that is going to mean and what that is going to look like for the future. Develop and establish criteria for expanded internship program. We've had a very great success with our internship program, moving many of our interns to full-time employees. We want to make sure that we are casting the widest net and getting the most members of our community who want internship opportunities in for that. And develop a position for a full-time volunteer coordinator. We are having some incredible luck with volunteers and bringing them together for the Irving Arts Center. What we want to do is expand that to a full-time IDAC volunteer coordinator so that we have someone who is coordinating those events across both organizations. Enhancing internal and external relationships to create a process to update and maintain the strategic plan. We are working right now how to keep this off the shelf, on our desks, in front of us all the time. All of us have had experience doing a strategic plan that gets written out, beautifully printed, put on the shelf, and no one looks at it again. This comes down every 90 days. On August 9th, we will all get together as a staff. We will look at everything we've done in the last 90 days and set ourselves up for success for the next 90 days. This is going to be an iterative process. Every 90 days, we're going to take a look at it. Process and procedures to identify opportunities for streamlining. That really is about the policies and procedures that many of our resident organizations identified as prohibitive. We're going to get in and look at some of those and see if we can't change them and make it easier for all of us. Develop a centralized social media plan for IDAC. Again, this is just bringing this department together so you know. If you go to a landing page for the Irving Department of Arts and Culture, you get everything in our suite of museums, historic sites, and the Irving Arts Center. And develop a logo for IDAC, again, just to bring that bring that brand together under one. And finally, igniting a passion for arts and culture. Planning and execution of the Mustang 40th and the Robert Glenn celebration, that will be October 18th. We are working, collecting 40 stories for 40 years of those Mustangs. We're centralizing an IDAC website, again, a landing page. If you went to the Irving Department of Arts and Culture, it's going to take you right there. And then all of the resident groups, all of the museums, the art center, and all of the events are right there at your fingertips. It will send you off to the main websites for all of those, but it is a landing page for all of that centralized. A memo of understanding with Parks and Recreation and Irving Libraries for festival collaboration. This really means the city does a lot of really great festivals right now. Instead of trying to recreate and do another arts festival, why don't we add arts to the festivals we already have? That's the memo of understanding, just trying to figure out how we can work and piggy bank and come in on and have a bigger party when we have a party. And finally, the MOU with Toyota Music Factory. They are supplying us with a local arts alley. It's between the Thirsty Lion and whatever's next to it. But they have put up 4 frames for us to use for local artists, for marketing. We're going to begin to tie that section to the rest of us as well. The biggest thing for our strategic plan over the next years is the reallocation of the hotel occupancy tax. We depend on the allocation that we get in order to do the services that we perform and to do the programming that we are able to offer. So as you heard from Mara, we are working very closely with the ICVB to reallocate the hotel occupancy tax. We're looking for a win-win situation, something that doesn't take anything away from anybody, but lets us retain a little more and move forward without so much of a fundraising gap that we have ahead of us right now at the Heritage Museum. The new allocation plan will stabilize the Heritage Museum Fund and keep us in line with state law. And again, that bracket expires in September of 2026. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Todd? Al?
Yeah, Todd. Jennifer, you here? Come join us, please. First of all, Todd, you've really got a star as your director here. But I am really taken when she mentioned something, it must have been about 4 months ago when we had the border, I guess, exhibition. And you said something that really has stayed with me, and hopefully we're going to be able to do something about it. And that the Kickapoo Native American were here before anybody else. And that really struck me before it even became part of Spain, et cetera. And I hope that we do something to try to really show that as we go forward. So, but I wanted to really call you out. Thank you for doing something. I knew we had some lineage, but I didn't know what the name of the tribe was. But now I do know. And I really want to do it so everybody else learns it. So thank you. Todd, you may want to make any comments on this, or Jennifer?
No, thanks to Jennifer's great. She was the first one to do the land acknowledgement before an event. It has sort of become a standard operating procedure for us that we do the land acknowledgement when it is appropriate. Certainly not every meeting, but when the events are appropriate and we have our community gathered, we feel it is very important to give the land acknowledgement and let people know whose lands we're standing on and all that came before us.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, Todd? Okay, sir. Thank you. Good luck with everything. Okay, we are going to take about a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and do 4, 5, and 6.